Hi everyone, in this lesson we're going to look at how we adjust numbers so that they're in standard form. Let's take a look at our first example. Write 3,200 multiplied by 10 to the power of 5 in standard form. Let's start by defining what standard form looks like. A number is in standard form if the coefficient, that means the number in front of the power of 10, is a number between 1 and 10. What that means is that the coefficient has to be greater than or equal to 1, so it can take on this lower value, but it has to be less than 10. So it cannot take on that value. Obviously this number 3,200 is too big, so that's the reason why this number is not in standard form. Now the way to adjust the number into standard form is to take this number 3,200 and turn it into standard form. Let's rewrite our calculation as 3,200 multiplied by 10 to the power of 5, so just rewriting what we had before. And all we're going to do is turn the 3,200 into standard form. Now we've seen how to do this in previous lessons. What we want to do is we want to look for our coefficient. Now we know that our coefficient has to be between 1 and 10, like we've already said. So the coefficient for the number 3,200 must be 3.2. Then I go to the largest place value digit, which is the 3. It's in the thousands column. So I know that this number is 3.2 multiplied by 1,000. And of course I can't forget that I'm multiplying that by 10 to the power of 5. The next thing I'm going to do is then turn this 1,000 into a power of 10. And the way to do that is just to count how many zeros there are. So there are 3 zeros, so it's 10 to the power of 3. And if you can see what I've done there, I've turned this number 3,200 into the number 3.2 times 10 to the 3. Now it's almost in standard form. The last thing I have to do is to collect my powers of 10 together. So here I have 10 to the power of 3 multiplied by 10 to the power of 5. And when we're multiplying powers that have the same base, then we add the indices. So 10 to the power of 3 multiplied by 10 to the power of 5 is 10 to the power of 8. So my final answer to this is 3.2 multiplied by 10 to the power of 8. And that is not in standard form because this number is less than 10. And we've got a power of 10 and we're all good to go. Pause the video and give this question a go. Let's run through it. Let me just rewrite it so we've got a bit of space. So 56 multiplied by 10 to the power of 3. And what we want to do is we want to take our 56 and turn it into standard form. So the coefficient is going to be 5.6. Go to the digit with the largest place value. It's in the tens column, so I'm multiplying by 10 to the power of 1. I went straight to that instead of writing 10. And then I'm going to multiply all of that by 10 to the power of 3. So 56 in standard form is this. And then what I have to do is I have to collect together my powers of 10. So 10 to the power of 1 multiplied by 10 to the power of 3 is 10 to the power of 4. That is my answer. Another way to think of it that can be helpful is that I'm taking a 10 from my 56 and adding that or multiplying that by the 10 to the power of 3 to give me this. Our next one says write 0.025 multiplied by 10 to the power of negative 3 in standard form. Let's start off by turning this small number into standard form. So our coefficient is going to be 2.5. Then I go to the largest value digit, which is in the hundredths column. So I know that this is going to be 2.5 multiplied by 0.01. And of course, I need to remember that I'm multiplying that by 10 to the power of negative 3. I can then turn 0.01 into a power of 10. And to do that, all I do is I count the zeros. Well, there are 2 of them. So this is 10 to the power of negative 2. And again, I need to remember I'm writing in my 10 to the negative 3 as well. That means I have got 2.5 multiplied by, and I need to collect these powers together. Now remember, when we've got powers of the same base, we add our indices. So if I have 10 to the power of negative 2 multiplied by 10 to the negative 3, I need to add together the negative 2 with the negative 3 like this. So really I'm doing the calculation, negative 2 add negative 3, which gives me an answer of negative 5. So my final answer is 2.5 times 10 to the negative 5. Pause the video and give this question a go. Okay, let's go through it. Write 0.009 multiplied by 10 to the negative 5 in standard form. So let's take this and turn it into standard form. Well, it's going to be 9 multiplied by 0.001 multiplied by 10 to the negative 5. And then we'll take this and turn it into a power of 10. That's going to be equal to 9 multiplied by, well, there are 3 zeros, so it's 10 to the power of negative 3. multiplied by 10 to the power of negative 5. And then take your indices and add them together. So negative 3 add on negative 5. Well, of course, I'm going to get more negative. I'm at negative 8. My answer is 9 multiplied by 10 to the power of negative 8. And that's my answer. Our next example, we've got a large coefficient and a small power of 10. Write 90 multiplied by 10 to the negative 2 in standard form. Let's turn 90 into standard form. That's going to be equal to 9 multiplied by 10 to the power of 1 multiplied by 10 to the power of negative 2. So I went ahead and I've turned 90 into 9 multiplied by 10 to the power of 1. Then I collect my powers of 10 together. So I would be doing 1 add negative 2, okay, which is equal to 1 take away 2, which is equal to negative 1. So this answer gives us 9 multiplied by 10 to the power of negative 1. And if the question asked us to turn that into an ordinary number, you would go ahead and turn this power of 10 into a decimal. It would be 0.1. Remember, the index tells us how many zeros there are going to be. And then you could do 9 multiplied by 0.1 to give you 0.9. So that's an ordinary number, but it's asked us for standard form, so that's our answer. Pause the video and give this question a go. Write 70,000 multiplied by 10 to the power of negative 5 in standard form. Let's take our 70,000 and we'll write that as 7 multiplied by 10,000. You might be able to go straight to 10 to the power of 4 there, and that's okay. Multiplied by 10 to the negative 5. I've taken my 70,000, I've turned it into this. I then need to turn this 10,000 into a power of 10. Well, that's 10 to the power of 4 because there are 4 zeros. And then I need to multiply that by 10 to the power of negative 5. Collect your powers of 10 together by adding the indices. 4 add negative 5 gives you an answer of negative 1. So this comes out as 7 multiplied by 10 to the power of negative 1. Which, like we've seen before, would be equal to 0.7. Okay, next example, we've got a small number for our coefficient and a large number for our power of 10. Write 0.00012 multiplied by 10 to the power of 9 in standard form. Let's turn our coefficient into standard form. So it's going to be 1.2 multiplied by, and go ahead and just count how many zeros you got. 1, 2, 3, 4. And where our first digit occurs is where we're going to put our 1 as well. So we've got 0.0001 multiplied by 10 to the power of 9. Then we want to turn this part into a power of 10. So that's going to be equal to 1.2 multiplied by, count how many zeros you got. You got 4, so it's 10 to the power of negative 4 multiplied by 10 to the power of 9. Go ahead and collect your powers of 10 together, add your indices. Negative 4 add 9. Well, one way to think of this is writing it as 9 take away 4, which is of course 5. So my answer to this is 1.2 multiplied by 10 to the power of 5. Pause the video and give this one a go. Okay, let's turn our 0.64 into standard form. Coefficient is going to be 6.4, and I'd be multiplying it by 0.1. And the reason I know my 1 starts here is because that's where the first digit starts in 0.64. And of course, we're multiplying this by 10 to the power of 5. 0.1 as a power of 10 is equal to 10 to the power of negative 1 multiplied by 10 to the power of 5. Add your indices on the powers of 10, which takes you to 4. My answer is 6.4 multiplied by 10 to the power of 4. Okay, moving into a slightly harder example. Write 4 to the power of negative 1 multiplied by 10 to the power of 3 in standard form. Now this brings in a new type of coefficient that we haven't seen so far in the lesson. And what we need to know is that when we see a negative in the index, it tells us to take the reciprocal. So 4 to the power of negative 1 is equal to 1 over 4. If we had something like 4 to the power of negative 2, that is equal to 1 over 4 squared. Okay, but when it comes to 4 to the negative 1, yes, of course, it is 1 over 4 to the power of 1, but really we don't need to write that. We could just go straight to 1/4. Okay, so that's what 4 to the power of negative 1 is. It's 1/4 multiplied by 10 to the power of 3. Now I'm going to write 1/4 as a decimal. It's 0.25 multiplied by 10 to the power of 3. And then we're back at the same form that we've had in the last few examples, where I just need to turn the 0.25 into standard form. Well, it's going to be 2.5 multiplied by 0.1 multiplied by 10 to the power of 3. I've just turned my 0.25 into this. And then I go and turn my 0.1 into 10 to the power of negative 1. Multiply that by 10 to the power of 3. Go ahead and add my indices. So negative 1 add 3 gives me an answer of 2. So this is 2.5 multiplied by 10 to the power of 2. That's my final answer. Pause the video and give this one a go. So write 8 to the power of negative 1 multiplied by 10 to the power of negative 6 in standard form. So 8 to the power of negative 1 is equal to 1 over 8 multiplied by 10 to the power of negative 6. Got to remember that part. At 1/8 is 0.125 as a decimal. And then I'm multiplying that by 10 to the negative 6. Let's go ahead and turn our 0.125 into standard form. Well, it's going to be equal to 1.25 multiplied by 0.1. And if you're not sure where I get the 0.1 from, I just go to the first digit where I see in my decimal, multiplied by 10 to the power of negative 6. Let's go ahead and turn our 0.1 into a power of 10. So that's going to be 10 to the power of negative 1 multiplied by 10 to the power of negative 6. Add your indices. So negative 1 add negative 6. Of course, that's the same as negative 1 take away 6, which is equal to negative 7. My answer is 1.2 multiplied by 10 to the power of negative 7. All right, our last type of example, we've got fractional coefficient raised to a negative power, and we've got a small power of 10 as well. So write 2/9 to the power of negative 2 multiplied by 10 to the negative 3 in standard form. So let's consider this 2/9 to the power of negative 2 first. Well, we said that the negative part of our index tells us to take the reciprocal. So for example, when we had 4 to the negative 1, we knew that that meant it was 1 over 4. And the same rule is true when we've got a fraction. We want to take the reciprocal of 2/9. So we're going to turn it into 9 over 2. That deals with the negative part. I still need to raise that to the power of positive 2 now. So I've dealt with the negative by taking the reciprocal. Now I've got 9 over 2 all squared. And what I need to do is I need to apply this index of 2 to both the 9, so that would be 9 squared, and also to the number on the denominator, which is 2, so it would be 2 squared like this. 9 squared is 81, and 2 squared is 4. So that gives me this as my fraction. So let's come back to here and say that the 2/9 to the power of negative 2 is 81 over 4, multiplied by 10 to the power of negative 3. So we then want to turn 81 over 4 into a decimal. Now I know that 4 goes into 80 20 times, and we would have 1 left over. 81 over 4 is 20 1/4. Now you can't see that. The reason that's true is because 81 over 4 is equal to 80 over 4, add 1 over 4. We know that 80 divided by 4 is 20, and of course we'd then have 20 1/4. 1/4 is 0.25, so 20 1/4 is 20.25. So this is now equal to 20.25 multiplied by 10 to the power of negative 3. Same format as the first few questions in the lesson, we want to turn this into standard form. So I'm going to say the coefficient is 2.025. I go to my largest value digit, which is in the tens column, so I need to multiply it by 10 to the power of 1. So that has turned that into standard form. I then multiply by 10 to the power of negative 3 on the end. Collect your powers of 10 together by adding the indices. So we're doing 1 add negative 3, which gives us an answer of negative 2. So my final answer is 2.025 multiplied by 10 to the power of negative 2. Pause the video and give this question a go. So write 10 over 3 all to the power of negative 3 multiplied by 10 to the power of negative 5 in standard form. Let's go ahead and deal with our 10 over 3 all to the power of negative 3. So our negative part of the index tells us to take the reciprocal, so that would give me 3/10, and I need to remember that I'm cubing that. I apply this index of 3 to the 3 to give me 3 cubed, and also to the 10 to give me 10 cubed. 3 cubed is 27, and 10 cubed is 1000. Go ahead and divide 27 by 1000 to give you 0.027. So that means that this calculation is equal to 0.027 multiplied by 10 to the power of negative 5. Let's turn this number into standard form. So that's going to be 2.7 as my coefficient multiplied by 0.01 multiplied by 10 to the negative 5. 2 zeros on the 0.01, so that's 10 to the power of negative 2. Multiplied by 10 to the power of negative 5. Add your indices together, negative 2, add negative 5 to give you -7. So my answer is 2.7 multiplied by 10 to the power of -7. Well done if you got that. If you're using our lesson booklets, you can now complete exercises 1 through 3. Thank you for watching the video.